Alright, let's talk about a job. It's a sweet job, but it's still a job. We're at a massive watermelon processing plant, and right now it's all about the arrival. Imagine a fleet of trucks, a real armada, rolling in from fields far and wide. These aren't just any trucks. They are giant bins on wheels, filled to the brim with watermelons. The air smells sweet and earthy, a promise of the juice to come. The drivers have been on the road for hours, making sure these big green globes get here safe and sound. It's the first step in a long journey from a dusty farm to a cool glass of juice on a hot day. This is where the magic and the work begins. The sun is just starting to climb, but this place is already buzzing with activity. Forklifts zip around like busy bees, carefully lifting the massive bins off the trucks. Each bin can hold hundreds of watermelons, weighing thousands of pounds. It's a carefully choreographed dance of heavy machinery. One wrong move, and you've got a lot of wasted fruit and a very sticky mess. The people operating these machines are skilled professionals. They move with a precision that comes from doing this day in and day out. They are the unsung heroes who get the whole process rolling, quite literally. They are the gatekeepers of the Great Melon Migration. Once the bins are on the ground, the real fun starts. A hydraulic lift tilts the entire bin, and a river of watermelons tumbles out onto a wide conveyor belt. It's a sight to behold, a rolling green sea of fruit, each one destined for greatness. The sound is a low rumble, a constant thud-thud-thud as the melons begin their slow march into the factory. This isn't a gentle process, but the melons are tougher than they look. They bump and jostle against each other, but their thick rinds protect the sweet red treasure inside. This is the moment the fruit leaves the outside world behind and enters the world of industrial processing. The scale of this operation is just incredible. We're talking about processing thousands of watermelons every single hour. The conveyor belt stretches as far as the eye can see, a moving road paved with fruit. This constant flow is the lifeblood of the plant. If the trucks stop coming, the belts stop moving, and the whole factory grinds to a halt. So, there's a lot of pressure on the farmers, the pickers, and the drivers to keep this green river flowing. It's a massive team effort, a long chain of hard work that starts in a field and ends right here, at the factory door, and we're just getting started. Now that our watermelons are on the conveyor belt, it's time for them to get a bath. You might think a melon that grew on a vine doesn't need a wash, but you'd be wrong. These melons have come a long way. They've got dirt, dust, leaves, and who knows what else on them from the field and the truck. So, the first stop inside the factory is the washing station. The melons travel under powerful jets of clean, cool water. It's like a car wash, but for fruit. Big rotating brushes scrub them from every angle, making sure every inch of that green rind is sparkling clean. This step is super important for food safety. After their shower, the melons continue their journey down the line. Now they are clean, but they are not all perfect. This is where the sorting process comes in. It's a combination of high-tech machines and good old-fashioned human eyes. First, the melons pass under a series of cameras and sensors. These machines are incredibly smart. They can check the size, shape, and even the color of each melon. If a melon is too small, too big, or has a funny shape, the machine knows. It uses a gentle puff of air or a small lever to push the rejected melon onto a different conveyor belt. It's a picky machine, but it has to be. Even with all this fancy technology, you still can't beat a pair of trained eyes. So, after the machines do their part, the melons roll past a team of human inspectors. These workers are looking for things the cameras might miss. They check for soft spots, cracks, or any signs of spoilage. They have to make quick decisions, inspecting each melon in just a few seconds as it moves past them. It's a job that requires focus, and a deep understanding of what a good watermelon looks like. They are the final guardians of quality, before the melons move on to the next, more dramatic stage of their journey. So what happens to the melons that don't make the cut? They aren't just thrown away. That would be a huge waste. Depending on why they were rejected, they might be sent to be used for other products, like animal feed. Or, if they are just a little misshapen but otherwise good, they might be sold at a discount. The goal here is to use as much of the fruit as possible. Every melon represents time, water, and hard work, so the factory tries its best not to waste any of it. But only the best of the best get to continue on the path to becoming juice. The chosen melons, the best of the best, now face their next challenge. It's time to get inside. A whole watermelon is great for a picnic, but you can't make juice out of it like that. You need to get to the good stuff inside. This next step is where things get a bit messy. The melons are moved onto another line where they are lined up and fed into a cutting machine. This isn't your average kitchen knife. We're talking about industrial-sized, razor-sharp blades that work with incredible speed and precision. The machine is designed to hold the melon steady and cut it perfectly in half. With a swift, clean motion, the machine's blades descend. In a split second, one giant melon becomes two perfect halves. You can see the bright red flesh, glistening under the factory lights. The smell of fresh watermelon suddenly fills the air, much stronger than before. It's a satisfying moment, the great reveal of the sweet interior that has been hidden inside the green rind. The two halves land perfectly on another conveyor belt, with the red side facing up. This precise cut is important for the next step. The machines are calibrated to handle melons of different sizes, ensuring a perfect cut every single time. Now, you might be thinking, what's next? Do they scoop out the red part with a giant spoon? Not exactly. The process is much more efficient than that. The watermelon halves continue their journey, moving toward a machine that looks a bit intimidating. It's a series of rollers and blades designed for one purpose: to separate the delicious red fruit from the thick, bitter rind. It's like getting a very close shave, but for a watermelon. The machines have to be gentle enough not to crush the fruit but strong enough to carve it away from the tough outer skin. The halves glide into the machine, and in a flash, the work is done. The red pulp is neatly scooped away, falling onto one conveyor belt below. The now empty green rinds, looking like little boats, are sent off on a different belt. It's a marvel of engineering to watch. The machine works tirelessly, separating rind from pulp with a speed that no human could ever match. This separation is crucial. You don't want any of that green rind in your juice. It's bitter and would ruin the sweet taste. So, this machine does one of the most important jobs in the whole factory. We've reached a fork in the road, or rather a fork in the conveyor belt. The sweet red pulp of the watermelon is going one way, and the empty green rinds are going another. Let's first talk about the red stuff, because that's what we're all here for. This pulp is the heart of the operation. It's a jumble of juicy red flesh and black seeds, all mixed together. It looks like a giant, messy fruit salad. This pulp is gently moved along, destined for the next stage where it will be transformed into liquid gold. The factory wants to capture every last drop of juice from this precious cargo. The conveyor belt carrying the pulp leads to a large collection tank. As the pulp falls in, it's already starting to release some of its juice. The sheer weight of all that fruit pressing down helps to start the process naturally. But this is just the beginning. The goal here is to get all the pulp ready for the main event, the pressing. Before that happens, there might be another quick inspection. Machines, and sometimes people, will give it a final look over to make sure no stray pieces of rind or other unwanted materials have accidentally found their way into the mix. It's all about purity. But what about those empty green rinds? A factory of this size produces mountains of them every single day. Just throwing them away would be incredibly wasteful and bad for the environment. So, these companies have found clever ways to use them. The rinds are collected and often sent to another part of the plant. Some are chopped up and used as a component in animal feed for local farms. The high water and fiber content in the rinds can be good for livestock. It's a great example of how a modern factory tries to create a closed loop, where nothing is wasted. Some innovative companies are even finding more advanced uses for the rinds. They can be used to extract a compound called citrulline, which is popular in health supplements. Others are experimenting with turning the rinds into biofuels or even biodegradable plastics. The point is that tough green shell that protected the fruit is not seen as trash. It's seen as another resource, another raw material with potential. So, as the red pulp moves on to become juice, the green rind starts its own separate journey, ensuring that every part of the watermelon is put to good use. It's a dirty job finding a use for everything, but it's a smart one. Now we get to the heart of the matter. We have a giant tank full of watermelon pulp, and we need to turn it into juice. This is where the big squeeze happens. The pulp is pumped from the holding tank into a machine called a juice extractor, or a press. There are different kinds of presses, but they all work on a similar principle. They apply immense pressure to the pulp to force all the liquid out. Imagine squeezing a sponge with all your might, but on a massive industrial scale. The machines are powerful and efficient, designed to get every last possible drop of juice. One common type of machine is a screw press. The pulp is fed into a long chamber with a giant rotating screw inside. As the screw turns, It pushes the pulp forward and squeezes it against a filter screen. The juice passes through the tiny holes in the screen, while the solid parts, the seeds and the fiber, are pushed toward the end of the chamber. The pressure inside this machine is incredible. The result is a steady stream of fresh, raw watermelon juice flowing out from one pipe and a dry, fibrous material coming out of another. It's a clean and continuous process. The raw juice that comes out is not quite ready for bottling. It's cloudy and contains tiny bits of pulp and seeds that made it through the first press. So, the next step is filtration. The juice is pumped through a series of finer and finer filters. This is like pouring it through a coffee filter, but much more high-tech. The filters catch any remaining solids, leaving behind a clear, beautiful red liquid. Some companies might use a machine called a centrifuge, which spins the juice at very high speeds. The spinning action forces the heavier solid particles to the outside, where they can be separated, leaving the pure juice behind. After filtration, we have pure watermelon juice. But the job isn't done. Sometimes the juice from one batch of melons might be slightly sweeter or less sweet than another. To make sure every bottle of juice tastes exactly the same, the factory uses a process called blending. The juice from different large batches is pumped into enormous blending tanks. These tanks can hold thousands of gallons. Here, the juice is mixed together to create a consistent flavor profile. Sometimes they might add a tiny bit of other fruit juice, like lemon juice, which acts as a natural preservative and balances the sweetness. This is the final touch before the juice is ready for the next big step. Our juice is now blended to perfection. It's pure, it's consistent, and honestly, it's delicious. But right now, it's just sitting in a giant tank. You can't sell it like that. It's time for the juice to get dressed for its debut in the grocery store. This is the packaging stage. And, wow, it's a whirlwind of automated activity. The empty bottles or cartons, which have been thoroughly cleaned and sterilized, arrive on a conveyor belt. They march in a perfect single-file line towards the filling machine. The whole area is kept incredibly clean to make sure no contaminants get into the final product. The filling machine is a marvel of speed and precision. It's a rotating carousel with many nozzles. As each empty bottle moves into place under a nozzle, a precise amount of juice is dispensed. It happens in a flash. The machine fills hundreds of bottles per minute, and it doesn't spill a single drop. The level of juice in every bottle is exactly the same, checked by lasers and sensors. This ensures that every customer gets exactly what they paid for. Once filled, the bottles move immediately to the next station, the capper. A machine just as quickly places a cap on each bottle and seals it tight. Now the bottles are filled and sealed, but they still look naked. They need a label. The bottles continue their parade down the conveyor belt to the labeling machine. Here, they are spun around as a roll of labels is applied with perfect accuracy. The label contains all the important information: the brand name, the nutrition facts, the expiration date. The date is often printed on by a high-speed laser or an inkjet printer just moments before the label is applied. This is a critical part of quality control, allowing the company to track every single bottle. The final step on the packaging line is boxing. The labeled bottles are grouped together, usually in 6s or 12s, by robotic arms. These robots gently pick up the groups of bottles and place them neatly into cardboard boxes. The boxes are then automatically taped shut and stamped with a code that identifies the batch, the date, and the time they were produced. This is the final piece of the puzzle for tracking and quality control. The boxes are then stacked onto pallets by another robot, ready to be moved to the warehouse. From a giant pile of melons, we now have pallets of neatly packed juice, ready to go. Throughout this whole process, there's a critical job happening that you mostly don't see. It's the job of keeping everything spotlessly clean. In a food processing plant, hygiene isn't just a good idea, it's the most important thing. From the moment the watermelons arrive, until the final box is sealed, the entire factory is focused on preventing contamination. This ensures the juice is safe to drink and stays fresh for as long as possible. The people and the systems responsible for this are the unseen heroes of the factory. Their work is what makes everything else possible. One of the first things you notice in a modern plant is all the stainless steel. The conveyor belts, the tanks, the pipes, the machines, everything is made of it. There's a good reason for this. Stainless steel is non-porous, which means it doesn't have tiny holes where bacteria can hide. It's also easy to clean and sanitize, and it doesn't rust. At the end of every shift, a dedicated cleaning crew comes in. They use high-pressure hoses, special soaps, and sanitizing solutions to scrub down every single piece of equipment. It's a tough, wet job, but it's absolutely essential. The factory also uses technology to keep the juice fresh. One of the most important processes is called pasteurization. After the juice is filtered and blended, but before it's bottled, it's quickly heated to a specific temperature for a very short time. This process, named after Louis Pasteur, kills any harmful bacteria that might be present without affecting the taste or nutritional value of the juice too much. The juice is then cooled down just as quickly. This step is what allows the juice to have a longer shelf life in the store without needing a lot of chemical preservatives. It's not just the machines that are clean, the air is clean too. The processing and bottling areas are often kept at a positive air pressure. This means air is constantly being pumped into the room, so it flows out whenever a door is opened. This prevents dust, insects, or airborne microbes from the outside from getting in. The workers also have to follow strict hygiene rules. They wear hairnets, clean uniforms, and gloves. They have to wash their hands frequently. It's a culture of cleanliness that is drilled into everyone who works here. It's a dirty job to clean up a sticky mess, but a clean factory is a safe factory. While watching this incredible process, you can't help but learn some interesting things about watermelons and juice. For example, did you know that watermelon is about 92% water? That's why it's so refreshing and why it's such a great fruit for juicing. It doesn't take much to get a lot of liquid out of it, and despite its name, a watermelon isn't technically a melon. Botanically speaking, it's a type of berry called a pepo, characterized by its hard rind and fleshy interior. So, you're actually drinking berry juice. It shares this classification with other gourds like cucumbers and pumpkins. The history of watermelons is also fascinating. They are believed to have originated in Africa more than 5,000 years ago. There are even Egyptian hieroglyphics that show watermelon harvests. They were often placed in the burial tombs of pharaohs to provide nourishment in the afterlife. From Africa, they spread along trade routes to the Mediterranean, Europe, and eventually the rest of the world. Today, China is by far the world's largest producer of watermelons. They grow so many that it's hard to even compare them to other countries. The scale of their production is truly mind-boggling. Here's a fun fact about the production process itself. What happens to all those seeds that are filtered out? Well, they aren't just thrown away. Like the rinds, they also have value. The seeds can be dried, roasted, and sold as a snack. In many cultures, roasted watermelon seeds are a popular treat, similar to sunflower seeds. They can also be pressed to extract watermelon seed oil, which is used in cooking and for cosmetics. It's another example of the waste not, want not philosophy that drives these modern factories. Every part of the fruit is a potential product. And what about the juice itself? The demand for watermelon juice has grown a lot in recent years. People are looking for healthier, more natural beverage options. Watermelon juice is not only hydrating but also a good source of vitamins A and C, as well as an antioxidant called lycopene. That's the same compound that makes tomatoes red. The efficiency of a modern plant is staggering. A single large factory can process enough watermelons in one day to produce over 100,000 gallons of juice. That's enough to fill a few swimming pools with sweet, red goodness every single day. So, the pallets of boxed juice are stacked high in a massive climate-controlled warehouse. They don't stay here for long. The logistics team has been working behind the scenes this whole time, coordinating with trucks and shipping companies. Orders have come in from grocery store chains and distributors from all over the country, and even from across the ocean. The goal is to get this juice from the factory to a store shelf as quickly as possible, ensuring it's at its freshest when you buy it. This final part of the journey is just as important as the first. Forklift operators, the same kind of skilled drivers we saw at the beginning, now load the pallets onto refrigerated trucks. These trucks are essentially giant refrigerators on wheels. They keep the juice at a constant cool temperature during its entire journey. This is crucial for maintaining the quality and safety of the product. A driver might be taking a load to a distribution center a few states away, or they might be taking it to a nearby port to be loaded onto a container ship. It's a non-stop ballet of logistics, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. For international shipments, the pallets are loaded into refrigerated containers, often called reefers. These containers are then lifted by giant cranes onto massive cargo ships. These ships will travel for days or weeks to reach ports in other countries. The containers are plugged into the ship's power supply to keep the refrigeration units running the whole time. It's amazing to think that a bottle of juice you pick up in Europe could have started as a watermelon in a field in North or South America just a few weeks earlier. It's a truly global supply chain. And so the journey ends where a new one begins, in your shopping cart. The boxes are unpacked at the grocery store, and the individual bottles are placed on the shelf in the refrigerated section. You come along, looking for something refreshing and healthy. You pick up a bottle, not thinking about the long and complicated journey it has taken. You don't think about the farmer, the truck driver, the machine operator, or the quality control inspector. You just see a bottle of juice. But now you know about the hard and sometimes dirty work that goes into turning a big green fruit into that simple, sweet drink. And maybe, just maybe, it'll taste a little bit